Hey everyone, Shaun Stevenson here, author of the Throne series, and this is a request from Mr. Mortman's library, and I am finally getting to it because I finally read The Adventures of the Bailey School Kids, book number 1, Vampires Don't Wear Polka Dots. Okay, so right off the bat, I was reading this book. I read it all in just one sitting. It took me maybe like 30 minutes to read. It's not long at all. It has really big print, short chapters. But while I was reading it, I thought, wait a minute. This sounds so familiar to me. And then I realized, I have actually read this before. I read this book back in grade school. I don't remember how old I was, but I do remember reading it. And it brought back memories of other Adventures of the Bailey School Kids books that I also had read. I am pretty sure I've read Leprechauns Don't Play Basketball as well. But there's some other ones that I feel like look really familiar to me too. And I think if I read them, they will start to come back to me. And so I reread this one, and obviously it's been a long time since I was a kid and rereading this book. So I was thinking, okay, how will this be? Will it hold up? Because I remember enjoying it. As soon as I was reading this, I remember thinking, oh yeah, I liked these books. They were a lot of fun. They were like easy reads. They were a little spooky, and they were fun. And I gotta say, I kind of enjoyed reading these. So I've only read this first one so far, reread it, but I really enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I kind of was wondering, it's so short and it's a lot of big text. Is this really for younger kids? Like, is it gonna be like too young, like to really hold the enjoyment of an adult as well? But this held my attention, and I really wanted to know what was happening. I wanted to know what was going on. I wanted to know what the kids found out about their teacher, Mrs. Jeepers. So the basic plot of this story is some third grade kids, their old teacher quits, and they have a new teacher come in, Mrs. Jeepers. And they're a little suspicious of Mrs. Jeepers because she's a little strange. She's not like everybody else in town. In fact, she seems to be maybe a vampire. But is she? Who knows? Only the kids can find out before it's too late. And that's basically the setup of this book, is these kids are trying to figure out, is Mrs. Jeepers a vampire? Now, I do feel like I need to say this. You can guess what you think about that question, but you never get definitive answers. And I feel like that's important to know going into this book. I'm curious if the other ones will be like this too, if they'll all kind of follow the same formula of this, the kids meeting an adult in town who's a little different than they're used to and wondering, is this person Frankenstein's monster? Is it a vampire? Is it a cyclops? Is it a ghost? Is it a leprechaun? And asking those questions about these different people that they come in contact with. So I feel like there could be a little bit of that, and I'm curious if I will enjoy that. Now, there is a sequel series, the Bailey City Monsters. There's also the super adventures of these books that are longer. There's more to them, and those seem to all be about Mrs. Jeepers. So I am curious if those will dive in a little more to these different monsters and whether they're actually real or not. So I did really enjoy it though. The artwork is so great. I really loved all the artwork throughout the book. There are interior black and white illustrations. They're awesome. They're so well done. I really loved those so much. Also, the characters are a lot of fun to follow. Some of them are actually funny. I actually laughed a couple times reading this book, and there's actually some good mystery. There was one sequence where some of the kids sneak into this basement that was actually a little spooky, and I really enjoyed it. I thought, this is like perfect for a first early chapter book reader who is getting into chapter books, who wants to read something a little spooky, but doesn't want to read like a Goosebumps yet or anything else that's a little scarier or above this. But they like monsters or they like spooky stories. These are perfect because they have just enough to make you a little like, ooh, oh, that's a little spooky. I kind of like this scene. That scene was a lot of fun and had some great suspense to it. I really enjoyed it. Also, the kids do some great investigating. It's just a lot of fun. And there's some great hijinks kind of stuff. It's kind of like one of those school hijinks sort of books where there's like different funny things happening and the characters are doing funny stuff and there's food fights and there's spit wads and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, there are some points, though, that come up where you're asking questions yourself, like, is Mrs. Jeepers a vampire? I'm not sure. I can't quite tell, and I'm not 100% positive either way. The writing is really good. I think one thing that shines here is the writing, because these books are not written in a way that's talking down to kids or making it so simple it's not very fun to read. This book actually was well written. The choice of words was great. All of that stuff, descriptions, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful stuff. It really worked all the way around. There's not really a villain per se in this book, unless you consider Eddie the school bully to be a little bit of an antagonist. There's otherwise not really a villain. It's more like a super cozy mystery for kids that's about monsters. And even then, the monsters are maybe menacing, maybe not. It just depends on what you think of the answers to the book that it does not give you. So that was kind of interesting, but also a lot of fun. So I really ended up enjoying this. There's not a lot else to say about this book, honestly. It's kind of what it is. It's short, it's quick, it's easy to read. You can read it, like I said, in 30 minutes. I think kids that are in that, kindergarten to third grade range, if they can't read it yet, they would enjoy having it read to them. If they can read on their own, they would enjoy reading it. So it's just a great little in-between sort of book for that age range, but also was fun to revisit as an adult. I really enjoyed it. So at the end of the day, I give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. It was a lot of fun. I wish there was a little bit more to it. I wish there was a little more answers to it, a little more definitive of a storyline than it is given here, but otherwise, it's just a lot of fun. Great little story. Definitely check it out. And until next time, everybody, keep reading. Bye.